Hello, everybody. Welcome to On the Homefront. We're very happy to be here with you once again. You might be getting us live on the radio at WILI AM 1400 or on 95.3 on the good old FM. We're also on YouTube 24/7 on your phone or on any device, so our guests can reach you in all kinds of ways. We're going to focus today on the arts, especially for the first half of the show. We're going to focus on the Cultural Coalition serving southeastern and northeastern Connecticut. They'll be with us for 2 segments today, and it will include some conversations with the Connecticut Museum of Culture and History. They're having a nice kind of a collaboration coming up this year. So we're going to look at the organization for the first 2 parts of the show. And then for the end of the show, we're going to have a Dianisi Torres back in the house. She is from the newly formed Latino Chamber of Commerce, which is tied into the Wyndham Area Chamber of Commerce. And it's a way for all the businesses from all aspects of the Latino Hispanic community that are involved in local business to come together. So we'll have Dianisi in for the end of the show. Okay, so sitting next to me now, I'm very happy to share the studio with Wendy Vincent. She's the Executive Director at the Cultural Coalition. So Wendy, I've had a chance to meet you before, but it's great to have you in the studio.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, John, for having us here. We're excited.
You bet. And next to Wendy is Kate Schramm. She's the Director of Cultural Sustainability at the Connecticut Museum of Culture and History. And I thank you for coming up today as well.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So one thing that we're going to do in the first part of the show is look at each of these great organizations with a little history and a little focus on what they're doing in the coming year. And I guess, Wendy, you'd be a great follow-up to get us started with the coalition.
Yeah, wonderful. We have been around for about 10 years. This is actually kind of our 10 years. And what we do is we are one of the designated regional service organizations for the Connecticut Office of the Arts.
Right.
So we currently serve the southeastern and northeastern part of the state, all the way from the bottom all the way up to the state line.
It's a huge area.
It is a huge area. It's a huge area and it's spread out. But there are lots of cultural organizations and artists and all kinds of great, amazing arts and culture going on this side of the state.
Something I want to mention right away you should jot down is the actual website. It's culturesect.org. It's loaded with information. You can go there and sign up for newsletters, and there are areas for you to register yourself as an artist. So when they keep a census for the arts of who's out there, they're trying to collect as much information as they can about all of the artists. So it's a great way to connect to them. So maybe you could just say, this is your second year now, right? You're still in this.
I'm even newer than that.
Half a year.
So half a year. This is 6 months.
Right.
So I've been the new executive director for 6 months.
Right.
Which is a little bit of a change because the previous executive director had been here for those 10 years.
I've had Wendy Berry on before, too.
Absolutely. And it's funny, we replaced one Wendy with another Wendy.
That's
we
true.
Just changed the last names to make it different and difficult for everyone. But
Yeah.
So I'm really excited, and Wendy's been a great resource. Wendy Berry's been a great resource in the transition process,
Right.
which is amazing. And I have the opportunity to look at the organization with fresh eyes and to see where we can take it in our next steps for the next 10 years.
So when you look at the next year, 2024, what do you think would be some of the areas that you'll be focusing on? I know one of them has to do with Megan, who'll be with us for the second half of the show. She's going to be working more in our region. But overall, when you look at the bigger picture, what are your hopes and dreams for the year?
Oh, let's see. Our hopes and dreams, like my first 6 months has really been just understanding where we came from and why, and why we're here and why we do what we do and exactly what we do. So looking forward, what I would like to do is take all of those things that we've done and that we've been doing really well and keep doing them, which is always a great thing to look forward to. And then I'd also like to The northern region is not as established as our southern region, so we will be hiring a coordinator for the northern region of the state who will be sitting up here in the north region and doing the work directly with us. So that's one of the other focuses that we'll be looking at.
Right. You know, people here really, like you said, they're spread out, very limited mass transit, and a lot of artists feel that they're in isolation, even though if they were part of a local guild, all of a sudden, hey, there's a family all around me I don't know about yet, you know?
Yeah, and one of our programs is called Culture Connects, and what that is essentially we convene. We're going to be doing them quarterly, and what we do is we convene just for people to come and get together, artists to come and meet each other. We did one towards the end of the last year at the Lewis Center, And so we'll
Up in Woodstock.
Up in Woodstock.
Oh, yeah.
So we're really trying to reach out and gather everybody together. So we'll put 4 on the calendar for next year. We're working on the dates right now to have those quarterly, and we'll do 2 in the southern region, 2 kind of in the northern region, and then we will do additional ones if we feel that it's needed for artists to be able to find a place to come together and do some networking.
Sure.
And find out what services are available to them.
Okay. Well, before time flies by, I want to bring Kate in right away.
I'm sorry, Kate, I did all the talking.
No, you're all good.
You're setting the stage. Kate is she's the Director of Cultural Sustainability, but she's at the Connecticut Museum of Culture and History in Hartford. So let's start with your focus directly. Folks hear about sustainability and they think about it in economic terms, making things pay for themselves over time, but your focus is a little different.
Yeah, that's right. The way that the museum thinks about cultural sustainability is really helping to meet communities where they are to help sustain things that they are doing that are super important to their communities. We're talking cultural vibrancy. We're talking about things that people are doing that if those things went away in their communities, it would really be a loss. They would really feel it.
That's a good way to put it, because sometimes people will say, well, what are the big ones? But the small ones are there and they're filling a hole. Mm-hmm. And even though it's small, that just maintaining that gives it a chance to grow over time.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Yeah. Do you have any examples of how the Northeast or Southeast might be some areas that have been activated where you've had some sense of activity now and you're trying to get more to do the same?
Well, the Connecticut Museum of Culture and History, just backing up a little bit, we are both the state's historical society, and we're almost 200 years old, Wendy, and so that's one legacy we carry. But another one is we are also the home for the state's programmatic activities to support folk and traditional arts in the state, and so with the statewide mandate. We can't always be everywhere at once, which is why we're super excited to be working together with the Cultural Coalition. But we have had contacts in the eastern half of the state for a really long time. And we see how artists and culture keepers in their communities are doing all sorts of amazing work to sustain their cultural traditions and invigorate local events. For example, the Finnish American Heritage Society out in Canterbury, Connecticut, is a long-term friend of ours. We have an apprenticeship program, and we have artists within the community who, and the Finns have been involved in that multiple times. They're wonderful people, and we have and I called out the Finns, but. The eastern half of the state is full of amazing cultural groups that are doing things every single day to sustain what's important to them, and we're privileged to be able to help that.
Yeah.
And some of the challenge we found as an organization is actually finding those. Like, where are they? Who are these really cool people, and what are they doing? And what kind of resources do they need that we could possibly help connect them with?
That's harder than it seems sometimes, right?
It is.
When you're looking at the state on a map, how do you find these folks? You know they're there somewhere, right? That's part of your challenge, is to figure out how to connect.
That's exactly it, which is why this partnership is a really good opportunity for us to be able to do that.
Yeah. So I want to mention another website to jot down to follow up today. This one is for the ConnecticutMuseum.org, and it's loaded. I went there today. You can look at the collection. And I wanted to ask you, if I could, about your digital collection.
Sure.
And how that helps. And one of the main functions that they have is to help with research and different levels and different purposes. So maybe talk about the research collection, would you?
Sure. The Connecticut Museum of Culture and History has over 4 million items in its collection. We're adding more every day, especially with projects like our Northeast Connecticut Impact Coordinator, who is photographing and documenting and interviewing people here in this part of the state. And those materials will eventually be added to our collection as well. But it's worth noting that of those 4 million pieces and this includes archives, objects, furniture, clothing, born digital materials, video, audio, only a small fraction of that has been fully digitized and is online. However, we are a nonprofit. We have amazing exhibitions as well, incredible education programs, wonderful events, and people can come and do research at the museum. All you have to do is check it out online and sign up to come in.
1 Elizabeth Street, Hartford. There you go. If I was a high school teacher or working with younger students, how could this collection be at the scale that I need compared to maybe somebody in college?
We have an amazing education department, and they deliver school programs the entirety of the school year. They're very, very busy. They also do adult outreach programs, and they go to where schools are all over the state. They log more miles. They've probably driven around the globe already this year in the miles that they've logged throughout our state. So.
Well, coming up in a few minutes, we're going to have Megan join us. She came up for the show, too, and she's going to talk about her work. But I just wondered, in terms of the overall connections the coalition has now, maybe you've been here a few months, but in a larger sense, maybe you can add to this, Kate. Over the last few years, have you sensed more of a sense that people have gotten more optimistic, or are they feeling more pressure? There's really serious financial pressure. Some of the ARPA money helped for a while. A lot of people survive with that. Mm-hmm. So we have to give a thumbs up to that money, but nobody ever thought it would be forever. And this past year, it kind of passed, most of it. How's it playing out?
The ARPA funding did give a good boost to a lot of our artists and arts organizations. Yep. And exactly like you said, now we're post-COVID, we're post the extra funding boost. And now, and we didn't necessarily do so well in the budget this year for arts and culture with the state.
Yes.
So that is the type of work that is the Cultural Coalition we are trying to help with. So we do a lot of advocacy work at the state level to see how we can ensure that there's an equitable access to funding for people. Okay. One of our largest programs that we offer free is our Funding Booster program. And what that is intended to do is to help artists and arts organizations, first of all, be aware of what is out there for opportunities, and second of all, help them to apply to that. Because, as you know, not everybody understands how to apply for grants or exactly what they need. So we have that program to help kind of bridge that gap there.
Yes.
So that's, I don't know, Kate, if you had anything you wanted to add to that thought.
Only that there's a lot of assumptions out there about what everybody in the state is capable of or has the resources to do. People don't always have a cell phone. People don't always have easy access to internet. They may not be fluent in the languages of bureaucracy or even know where they would start, or they might be really scary for them.
Sure.
And that doesn't even get into linguistic barriers. We have one of the most diverse states in the nation.
We do.
So yeah, this is why this kind of outreach and the kinds of programs that you're doing are super important.
The other aspect of this is that the connections transcend the moment, because you're trying to build a foundation to grow on. So it's not a transient thing. Let's get together for this event, or maybe a program, or even a campaign. It's more like changing everyday life, changing the neighborhood to think differently. So I guess one thing that I'm very optimistic about is how people that I hear on the show, I'm hearing more optimism that people with limited means have figured out a new math of saying, well, pool together what you've got, and all of a sudden you might match a grant. Or maybe you could do a larger project you couldn't even apply for alone. So people are collaborating like your agencies, and I'm sure you're seeing other people thinking the same way, right?
Yes.
So now we have the state funding issue. The arts community, culture, and tourism used to be pretty separate silos for a long time. And they got along, but it was very competitive sometimes. And the last couple of years, a lot of work was done to get them together, and it got to a point where it actually got to the legislature, and then the funding wasn't there for it. They're trying again. And I just share this because you should look up the Connecticut Arts Alliance. They're a statewide organization trying to impact the connections taxpayers have with the arts organizations, and artists. And they're trying to get through the bureaucracy to get the arts what it needs and what it deserves, because of the amount of money that the arts generates every year.
And I want people to understand, too, that all of these organizations are working together. Like the Connecticut Arts Alliance just held a 2-day informational session on how to talk to your legislators for this.
That's right.
So there's a lot of ways that, us as the Cultural Coalition, because we work with the Office of the Arts, we work with the Arts Alliance, we've been involved in some of the tourism and marketing discussions to say, don't forget how arts and and culture are helping to drive the economies. And don't forget us in that conversation.
That's right.
So that's a lot of the work that we're doing, and it's great to have all these different partners that we're partnering with. I love we're all talking to each other. We're all trying to get towards that same end goal.
Yeah. So these related communities are partnering, and now they have data to show real money results. It's not theoretical now. They've crunched the numbers probably too painfully, but they have the data. Now it's just
we
getting
just
people.
participated in the Arts and Economic Prosperity Study last
number
year,
6, right.
and the results of that show how much arts helps drive the economies in these regions. So it's not only you might go see a show somewhere, you're not just paying for your ticket for the show, you're also going to gas up your car on the way there. You are also going to eat in a restaurant there. You might visit some of the shops. And all of this is driving to help the local economies of these, and especially some of these smaller rural towns out here who could really use that extra boost.
So if you're listening to us on the radio right now, we're talking about the Cultural Coalition serving southeastern and northeastern Connecticut. And for the first segment, we've had Wendy Vincent with us, along with Kate Schramm from the Connecticut Museum. Kate, before you leave us, is there anything you wanted to share today that I didn't touch on, before you go?
Well, I really just want to take a moment to shout out what folk and traditional arts is all about. A lot of times people hear it and they think, oh, it's like old time stuff. People get it's all the ancient things.
It's all sepia, right?
It's all sepia toned. Right. And I'm here to say, please put those assumptions aside. These are things that are emergent. They are vibrant. They can feel like something that has very deep roots, but they can also be growing out of those deep roots and look like something brand new. We recognize them by the contexts that they occur in, where there's creativity, community, and continuity that work in harmony. And because these things are so often so small and so community-based, they are routinely underserved by typical arts funding and typical humanities funding, because what do you do with maritime knot tying? What do you do with timber-framed barn building? These are complicated and interesting and also very aesthetic productions. But it's very difficult to find a grant that supports it. So this is what this work does. This is what our program does. Is we are working with communities to do this important work of support and sustenance. Yeah.
Well, that's a great way to finish up. And I look forward to having you back during the year as things come up, special events, people you're working with. The doors are always open for you, Kate.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks very much. So what we're going to do is take a very short break. We'll stay with Wendy and come back with Megan Griffin. She's joined their family as the Folk and Traditional Arts Community Impact Coordinator. And as Wendy said, she's going to be all over the region trying to capture where people are and what they're doing. So thanks again, Kate, and we'll come right back. Stay with us. All right, everybody, we're back on the Homefront. We're glad to have you with us. For the third part of the show later on, we're going to have time with Dianisi Torres. She's the executive director of the Latino community. It's a new business that's tied to the Chamber of Commerce, but it's focused on the Latino business community all around Wyndham. So we'll do that in a few minutes. Right now, though, we're continuing our conversation about the Cultural Coalition. And now we have Megan Griffin with us today. She's recently joined their organization as the Folk and Traditional Arts Community Impact Coordinator. So congratulations, first of all, on your new opportunity, Megan.
Thank you so much.
I wish you the very best. And maybe a starting point is what your thoughts are as you begin the job and your hopes for the coming year for the things that you'll be doing to help the community better understand itself.
Sure. Well, my hopes so far for this project are to be as much service to artists and practitioners of these knowledges in the region as I can possibly be. So far, the folks that I've met have had such an array of expertise and experiences, and so I want to do my part to portray that accurately and respectfully, and also to make sure that I am getting a sense from them about what resources they might use in the future to endure, to better connect with one another, and again, just to record this tremendous service to our society that they're doing.
So as you collect the stories, what is the plan for using them for a larger goal than helping each individual in their own path, but the larger family aspect of that?
Sure. I get the sense that we're in sort of the exploratory phase of the project. So right now, it's making connections, meeting as many people in as broad a regional scope and scope of different disciplinary areas and foci as I can possibly get. And the hope is that that will blossom into, as Kate said, something that will emerge sort of naturally, which is that these relationships might arise out of the different events that the Cultural Coalition is putting together, or that some of the artists might be interested in taking part in the apprenticeship program that the Connecticut Museum of Culture and History offers, or that some of these artists might benefit from the grants workshops that the Cultural Coalition offers, or perhaps that something completely new arises from bringing these artists into conversation with one another for the first time, because some of them are a bit more connected to the Connecticut sort of cultural milieu, and then some are, this is the first time they've been interviewed, this is the first time they've been connected to a nonprofit or cultural institution.
I mean, imagine, let's say, you went to an arts guild or an arts council, and they have 30 members. You've got 30 stories right there, some of which may never otherwise be documented, because folks don't usually tell their own stories very well. They're too busy making their art to try to sell it, right? So can you talk about how that is part of your job, and why did you want to do this kind of work for yourself? What motivated you to want to help in this unique way?
Sure. So for the first part of your question, I think one thing that I try to do when I talk to artists is often they have to be convinced that they're artists, or that they're worth interviewing, or that they're doing something that merits documenting. And so really showing them how interesting and crucial and important their work is. I think they realize the work itself is important because they've dedicated their lives to it, but that they as individuals are doing something really important for us in maintaining, or as Kate said, keeping these cultures.
Yeah.
My interest was, I studied rural sociology, and so in that discipline, I really focused on actually local knowledges in terms of science. So I looked at small communities that were maintaining local agricultural knowledge, local scientific knowledge, even when they were facing dispossession. Wow. And so it was tremendously important for the environment. It's knowledge that is now, we're realizing, more and more relevant. And so when I came across this opportunity, I jumped at it because I thought, okay, this is such similar work, just looking at it in a slightly different valence, just looking at it through arts. This is stuff that is going to be more and more relevant, and this is something that could be at risk, but is very much worth propping up.
Right. So we have our eyes on you. Our eyes are on you. If you're an artist out there, you got to put your eyes on Megan, because she's looking for you. And I want to talk to Wendy for a second because of the database you have. They've been doing a census for years to build up who's out there. And can you talk about the newsletters and how people can sign up to find out things they may never know about otherwise?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a lot of information on our website to direct you in a lot of different resources and programming that we have. One of them is you can sign up for our newsletters to find out what's going on. Included in our newsletters are things like information coming down from the Office of the Arts, things that the Arts Alliance is doing. Like I said, we keep our eyes out there. Things that might be coming up in the news that you might want to know about, grant funding opportunities, that type of stuff. Again, we work to try and connect people, meet them where they are, connect where they need to be connected, and doing that type of work. Even, we'd announced when we brought Megan on to do this work and be able to have her help connect some of those artists back to us.
Yeah. So the website to jot down to follow up on all these things is culturesect.org, S-E-C-T, culturesect.org. Megan, if I was an artist and you came to visit me, and I was trying to do more than have art as a hobby, but I really wanted to take a risk and try to make an economic relationship with my art, the question would be, what are the kinds of services people could tap into that they may not even know could help them not reinvent the wheel and save them a whole year of confusion over basic stuff that they couldn't believe could be more simple than they thought. Pardon me while I choke.
Goodness, I think the main thing that I would suggest is that they start building up their contacts with these different organizations rather than doing all the work themselves of figuring out which, let's say, farmers market has the lowest price of entry for them to try and sell their wares, or which are the locations where they would have the best luck performing their work. So I think getting involved with organizations like the Cultural Coalition that will be able to point them in the right direction and plug them into an already vibrant network.
Yeah, and I'll just tag on to that for a second, Megan, and just to say that I find a couple things. I was in a writing group the other day, and just that authenticity of being able to say, I'm a writer, I'm an artist, and then you take the next level up and you say, I've sold a painting, now what? Well, now you're in business. So let's figure out how to make you sustainable, to be able to utilize your art and still keep it sustainable by being able to sell it at the farmers markets or that type of thing. So, but again, it's exactly like Megan said. How do people connect? And there's people who've already done it. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So how do we connect these people together to say, oh, they've done the farmers market circuit. How do we put them in touch with the person who's never done it and needs the help?
Right. That's a great practical example. Or things I want to ask you about is the agony of, what do you charge? What will the market
Always the
bear?
hardest question.
And if the market is at a certain level in reality, this is the economic reality, you can't think that you're living somewhere that might be in Stanford or Newport, Rhode Island, where there's a lot of cash flowing, but you still want to live here and you want to work here. So how do people think that through?
Well, I think they all have different needs. Many of the artists are hobbyists or homesteaders, or this is a second vocation for them, or they're retirees, and they're looking for a way to keep this practice alive in this newfound free time they have. And then some folks are in the process of launching a business, and some folks are tremendously well established. So that's really, it's hard to answer that question in one way, and I'm just at this point trying to gather all the stories and assess all of their needs as much as I possibly can.
And that fact-finding that Megan is currently doing now is what's going to help us and other organizations be able to support that they're doing. Like Megan said, are they just trying to keep a tradition alive? And it's not that they want to turn it into a business. That's a different conversation than with somebody who wants to turn it into a business. So by Megan gathering all this data, we can then figure out how to meet people where they are and help them.
Yeah. And maybe one thing, we have a couple of minutes still, I want to ask about specific things because people really struggle with what they need to know. And there are workshops throughout the year on various aspects of managing the money, their creativity. Can you mention some of the topics that have been covered where people can try to break the mountain into manageable pieces and move ahead one step at a time and not feel overwhelmed, and it takes them a long time to get confident?
Yeah, and I mean, it'll be interesting to see what Megan's finding in her research that people are needing too. But there's a lot of opportunities out there and a lot of training, but you just need to kind of know where to go to do it.
Right.
So there are opportunities out there for artists to learn how to do an artist statement. You need to have an artist statement to be able to do a business plan if you're going to create a business. You need to have that to be able to apply for a grant if you're looking for some grant funding. Right. A big question we get is, I want to be a nonprofit. How do I be a nonprofit? Or it's like, let's talk about the other side of it. What about being a for-business artist creative organization? So there's a lot of those questions that people have, and I think the struggle is just knowing where to find the information to answer those questions for them.
Right. And I know from some other conversations that some artists look for a fiduciary sponsor. They're not qualified to be a nonprofit. Maybe they don't really want to go through all that legal stuff to become an entity that could receive a grant. But perhaps a nonprofit could sponsor their work. They would manage the money. They would report on it for how it was used. But they could be a home. Could you see how that works to give someone a chance?
And when you have a sponsor like that, the challenge to that sometimes is when you have a sponsor, you can't necessarily apply for grant opportunity, because sometimes there's a box to check that says, do you already have a fiduciary sponsor? And then you can't apply for that particular grant. So those are all things just to be aware of, to work through as, again, there's a lot of different options and different ways to go about things.
Sure. Sometimes you file with the fiduciary and you jointly file. You're their agent. You're the party that does the work that the grant is going through them who do. It's all a matter of how you define it. But anyway, I want to mention the website again, culturesect.org. Is there anything that you wanted to touch on, Megan, as an introduction to kind of break the ice? We hope to have you back once in a while. And when you come back, bring some artists. Because when I have the guilds on, or the arts councils, their members are also artists. They come on and talk about their art. So welcome to our area. And what do you think about your last thoughts?
Well, thank you so much. I would be so happy to come back and bring some of the artists I've been talking with me.
Sure.
My email is impactcoordinatornect@gmail.com if anyone would like to get in touch with me for any aspect of the project. And I just want to echo what Kate and Wendy have been discussing about the relevance of the work that these artists are doing. And I think the increased relevance that I think this work will have going forward. I was talking just last week with someone who shears heritage sheep and then weaves and spins her own wool and then weaves it, and she was talking about how much more sustainable and how much more pleasant this is than getting some fast fashion that has microplastics in it. So I think these are things that for a changing world are going to be increasingly really relevant and really important.
Yeah, I think the more people realize the working conditions of some of the people in the clothing industry and how they're living, they would think twice about buying some of that stuff. But that's another show. But thank you, Wendy, for being here. I wish you a good year ahead. We'll have you back for the coalition. And I'll look forward to seeing you next time too, Megan, okay?
Thank you so much.
All righty, great. All righty, well, we're going to take a short musical break and come back with Dianisi Torres from a new organization here in the area focusing on the development of our Latino business community. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Have some salsa. Hey, we're back on the home front. John Murphy here. Very happy to be here to close out our show today with a new organization that's only a few months old in our community, the Latino Chamber of Commerce of Windham. I'm happy to have Dianisi Torres back in the house. I've had her on the air a few times over the years with her good work at Click, but right now she is the executive director, or the president, I should say.
I am the president.
And also next to her is Luis Morales Torres, the vice president. And I welcome you to the program, Luis. It's good to have you here in the house.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, this is really exciting because people have sensed that the community is growing. There are more people here from more different places. The economy is beginning to move a little bit. Some renovations are happening. So you've picked a good time to kind of start the fire.
Yes, thank you very much, for having us here. I really appreciate the opportunity and the space. Definitely, the community has been changing in last couple of years, and it will be continuing changing with the situation of migration that is happening all over, the world.
Absolutely.
And specifically for the states that are closer to us, that means that our community will be shaped a little bit different. It will be diverse, even more, because we have a very diverse community in Windham.
Yes. Oh, indeed.
Yes.
I mean, I came here from New York in 1978, and I would say at the time, the majority might have been Puerto Rican at the time. I mean, demographically.
Yes.
And now it's quite the rainbow.
It's quite the rainbow. I read an article made by the WRCC about the Puerto Ricans arriving to Willimantic.
Oh, yes.
It was in the 70s. It was, made, or maybe the 80s. I don't remember the date.
So that was back with the mills and the mushroom factories.
Yes, that was the push to have all these Latinos, especially from Puerto Rico, coming from the island, coming to this area to work at the mills. And that's how, the community started to be more diverse, because there were other communities before the Puerto Ricans.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So let me ask you, if I could, Luis, how did you decide that the best way to move forward is to connect to the existing Chamber of Commerce as a partner? How did that work?
Well, we basically went around. We wanted to start it by ourselves, start a new organization. It was definitely difficult.
It was challenging. It was challenging.
And we did knock to a lot of doors asking for helps and stuff like that. It was really hard to start this new organization, and the only one willing to help us, it was
the Windham
Chamber of Commerce, and we decided to start with them.
That's right.
Yes.
Thumbs up to Diane Nato.
Diane Nato. She was the one who says, you need it, here you go. She said she didn't think about it because she understands the necessity and the growth of our town, and also because we are very well organized and we are very well known in our community because we worked for so long with the Latino community in Wyndham. So it was a great connection. It was a great connection having all of these two organizations joining. So basically, I want to explain a little bit deeper of who we are and specifically what is the definition or the category that we have as a program. Okay, so we are a program under the Wyndham Regional Chamber of Commerce Foundation. So we are a 501c3 program. So I want to clarify, we have officially our name, officially trademarked Latino Chamber of Wyndham. And we are located at 47 Crescent Street.
I had to do it, I'm sorry.
No hay problema, un placer. So we are, we're here based in Willimantic. We're at 47. We are having most of our professional development meetings and programs being happening at the 47 Crescent Street, where is the Veterans Center.
Right. Yeah. So when you think about the maybe 15 miles of here, a lot of businesses.
Definitely.
Do you have any idea, did the Chamber help you figure out how many potential businesses are kind of struggling on their own? And they're making it. Some are doing better than others, of course.
Yes.
But are they all not yet aware that if they link together, things can move faster?
So these organizations, this new program of the Latino Chamber of Wyndham, it kind of happens naturally. So we started organizing because we wanted to celebrate the Latino achievements in this area. So we started celebrating the Latino Business Expo at the Horizons Inc. So we noticed, we aimed for 60 participants and we received 102 participants in this Latino Expo.
Yes. That was last fall, right?
That was last fall.
Right.
And I was here promoting it, and that opens our mind to the need and the necessity of having, the demand of having a program that kind of like, covers as an umbrella all of this community that is needing professional development, exposure of the cultural arts, and also, we are trying to cover not only equality but equity. That's exactly what we are promoting.
Yeah. Well, part of the challenge, in Connecticut is spreading it around because there's a real issue with income distribution in the world, but
That's right.
here in the U.S. When you look at the area, what do you think are the things that would help businesses grow the most? I mean, obviously, if more money comes in, it's great. If more people have money to spend, that's great. But those are obvious.
More money is always great.
Right. But apart from the money, what is it people can do right now to do more with what they have?
Definitely. One of the aspects that I notice, and we realize every time that we encounter a new business or an existing business, it doesn't matter from if it's Latino or not. It's the visibility that they have as business, as what they offer as services, how they can promote themselves in social media, in this new world of having online services and deliveries and all type of different payments. So we are trying to educate our community, especially the business community, about it. And not only that, we also would like to promote and offer professional development for the youth, the new ones that are coming out of high school, so that this is a skill.
College grads.
Grads, it's a skill that you need to know, because if it doesn't work for your plan A, a business should be your plan B.
Right. In fact, this is a good point to bring up a great organization I've covered many years, is CLIC, the Cooperatively Licensed Community Kitchen. This is an example of a new way to start a business. And for food, your big obstacle is having a legal kitchen.
Yes.
Where you can legally, safely make food for people. And that's what CLIC does.
Yes, that's exactly right.
And you were there working very hard.
13 years, being part of CLIC. So I can tell you from the beginnings to today.
We covered it, when Phoebe and team were talking about it on paper.
Yes.
So maybe you can mention how a couple of food businesses started there, and they're doing well. And that's an example of how businesses that are small can grow.
I cannot be I cannot be more proud of my community, especially what has been happening the last 4 years at CLIC. So we put a whole program for new businesses arriving and arising in Wyndham, especially for the Latino businesses. So we put out there $10,000 for grants for Latino businesses who wants to start their business in a legal way with all of their permits. So from there, we opened not 10, we opened 12 businesses at Click that are Latinos. So we have several businesses that are part of our cultural traditions. For example, at Click, we opened the first taco truck in Wyndham with all of their licenses, okay?
Oh,
So
yeah.
I am,
legendary.
definitely, we did everything with every single business that joined that program because I did, we went hand to hand. I did most of their education, most of the, steps that they need to take because we want to make sure that they succeeded. So most of these businesses has been running their businesses for 2-3 years now. So we also have another very important role in our community, especially for the Mexican community, which is the elotera. So we have Elizabeth Garcia, who's our first licensed elotera, which is the corn, street corn, the corn in the cob. So that's, we have a vendor here, a tent that is every summer at the rec park. So those two, roles in the Mexican and Latino community are very important because they're not just, providing the little culture through their food, right? The cultural, a little piece of their culture through their food, but they also uplifting who we are. They are demonstrating, they are showing what is Wyndham, what we are capable of who we are here as a community, because that's the idea of a community, to know who you are and you know who I am. And this is great, to have these businesses have some visibility. And that's what I mean, providing for, platforms as social media.
That's one of the simple things is that people's food, that's the window. That's the door to learn. Why do you have this food? Well, there's a special reason for this. El Dia de los Muertos. Well, this is for the ancestors to hang out with the grandparents.
Yes.
And have a meal with them.
Yes.
So you see the picture, but you don't get the story.
Exactly.
And when you do, it's mind-blowing. It's
totally.
incredible.
It makes difference. Everything with purpose makes a big difference. Because if you go, if you have a purpose, you have a mission, and when you have those two, you are happy. That's the happiness, definition of happiness. But so that's why we do what we do. And with the creation of this program, we are a charitable program. So we're trying to create educational programs, but also opportunities for growth. And not only that, we also want to expose our culture through arts, festivals, celebrations of our days that we celebrate in our home. So we want to put it out there for others to kind of understand or learn about different cultures. I think that's important as well.
Yeah. Luis has a note there?
Luis has a note there, and he wants to remind me. He wants to remind me to talk about that at the Latino Chamber of Wyndham. We are looking for sponsors and sponsorship. Mm-hmm. We are looking for anyone who would like to, patrocinar is the word in Spanish. Patrocinadores, sponsors, because we have a goal in mind, but we also, we are volunteers, so we are starting this program 2 months old. Yeah. So we are looking for any program, any institution who would like to be part of this huge program organization within the Latino community.
Yes.
What are the best ways for people to follow up on our chat today, right? Like we're on YouTube, so we're going to save this. We can get you a link. You can share our story today, right?
Definitely.
But if someone's hearing us on the radio or watching, what can they do if they have some money to share? A sponsorship would be great.
So, best way is to connect with me, Dianisi Torres. You can email me, torres.dianisi@gmail.com. That will be TORRES.DIANISI@gmail.com. You can also give me a call or send a text message at 860-617-9162, 617-9162. And you can find me in my own social media, Dianisi Torres. I have my Facebook, Instagram, and I recently opened. Long time, and I have really nice pictures. If you want to go there and hit the like, I would like that. But also, I also would like
torches on high, man.
But I also would like to invite you to subscribe in my new YouTube channel. So I have a YouTube channel now. It's Dianisi TV. Mm-hmm. So if you go and check it out, so I have some interviews, and I'm gonna be creating a podcast a little bit more about my what we do behind scenes,
yeah.
right? That's always important because people think that I do magic and things appear like this, but it's
way.
not like that. There's always, awesome people in our community that are willing to be, to become volunteers until, we have a solid program. So we are looking for sponsors. We are looking for programs that would like to collaborate.
Yeah.
We're open for discussions.
I went to the Wyndham Chamber website today, and they don't have a link yet, but I think that website is so well known. If you could have a link from there to your Facebook,
Definitely,
a lot of people would find out, I think, more quickly.
Yes, we're gonna also we have our website that is linked to
We're
the
working
Wyndham
on our
Chamber, but
website
we
now.
are changing certain things because
Yeah.
there was some confusion out there in our community. So we want to make sure that everything is clear
Of
and
course.
responsibly done. So that's why it's not active. But we started with a website, but we are making some changes. But it's the Latino Chamber of Wyndham.
Well, I'm really happy to have the two of you here today. You also, Luis, and we'll have you back in the months ahead to help you get started. It's very hard. The early startups, paying advertising is very hard.
It
This is a good
is.
story, and we can do it once a month with new businesses and try to help people get the word out.
I would love that. We are always looking for that opportunities, and I really appreciate your support because you always support my community. You always support everything I do. This is not the first time I come here to the show, right, Matt? I've been here quite a few times,
Yeah,
and
that's right.
you're always open to everything that we bring, and always bringing the information and the conversations that needs to happen, and also again I am open to any program, any suggestions as well. So anything that you feel, we can even do bilingual programs on the radio. That's what I love.
We will try and do that as well. And it's nice to help a startup start to get its feet. And this is an early time to make a big difference here. Some of the development money is coming into our territory. People have to steer it in certain directions.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
So this is Vice President Luis Morales Torres, and of course Dianisi. Thank you, and I wish you good success for this year. We'll have you back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And always thank you for joining us each week here on the Homefront. If you want to get involved in a future show, use the email to reach me, john@humanartsmedia.com, and we'll see you next week.